Welcome to the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Chris Carr.
And I'm Kristen Johnson.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. And we've been away for a couple of shows. So.
Yeah. And we just have, it's summer, things going on. So we'll probably miss some more. We are contemplating making the Thursday night show Bigfoot and the Bunny, and then premiering some kind of pre-recorded show on weekends with like video snippets and different things kind of more produced, which is kind of where we started, because we started by doing audio podcasts with lots of sound effects and all kinds of things, really, all kinds of bullshit, right? We obsessed on it. All kinds of time to make those things. So I don't know, it might be hard to keep on a weekly schedule, but we will let you know.
Bi-weekly?
Maybe bi-weekly.
We'll try like that.
We'll be Bob. Bob Burnell's out there. What's up, buddy? Bob and us are going on an investigation in September. I'll tell you more about that as it approaches. I believe it's the James, I don't want to say mansion, it's his house. I forget the full name. I don't have it in front of me. I should have took notes.
Yeah, Bob.
Let me know. But we're looking forward to that. And you had an awesome clip. Actually, I should have played that tonight. EVP clip. Saying the Lord's Prayer, and the entity says amen at the end of it. And it's really, really cool. Anne Marie says, I missed you. I missed you too, Anne Marie. How are you? And of course, George is out there. What's happening, George?
Hi, George. Howdy from Texas.
Howdy from Texas. Howdy. So we've got a cool show for you guys. Real psyched. Our good friend Nathaniel Gillis is with us. Oh, I see Jack Kilowatt out there too. What's up, Jack? Seems like forever, man.
Right.
Rise from your grave. I don't know if I got the button set, so I'm not going to press it.
Hi, Barbara.
I could play anything. Barbara Woodbury Spear. Nathaniel J. Gillis is with us tonight, and I'm so psyched.
We are.
He is our brother from another mother. We say that all the time, and it's really true. I love that we are in a position where we can just give Nate a call and say, hey, man, you free later? You want to come on? He's like, yeah, sure. We'll have a conversation. There's been all kinds of things going on lately in the media about disclosure and the whistleblower, and Nate is into ufology. So we're going to talk about that and some other things. And again, a lot of conversation. And you guys, please participate. Post your questions, comments. We'd love it. Thank you. Let's bring him right on. What's going on, my man? How are you?
What's going on, my fam? Ooh, I hear an echo. I'm good, man. I'm glad to be back with you guys. We just finished up with Ghost Notes, and now we're gonna keep going on and just talk about the research, man. But I love you guys with all my heart. You know that, and hello to everybody who's tuning in tonight.
We love you too, man. And like I was just saying, honored. We're honored that we can just call you. Hey, what are you doing?
Hey, man, it's all good, dude.
We do bullshit.
and you did say on Facebook that I love chicken wings, so I had to come. I had to show up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
No problem, man.
I don't think I have any other friends that post as many chicken wings as you, and I'm also a fan. So.
Oh yeah, I love them.
I like them as long.
Next time you're in the RI, we're gonna have to get some wings.
Yeah, man. Because we usually do Harry's Burgers and Sliders or Italian.
Yeah.
We got to do Frank's. What was it? Frank Pepe's Pizza. We got to do that. We got to find some chicken wings. But yeah, we're gonna have a great time tonight. I'm in the mode, man. Kristen already told me. You told him, brother. He's just got done talking for an hour. You know what I mean? It's like, all right. It's funny, but it's great to be with you guys. It really is.
Oh, it is. It's awesome. I'm going to shout out to our friends at Horse Paranormal Research.
Yeah.
They are at Trans-Allegheny Asylum tonight, and I saw Marilyn Bass post some really cool pictures. Awesome pictures. Really spooky looking place.
Looks
and,
like
it's
so much fun. We can't wait to go.
Bucket list.
Yeah.
You got to get down there. West Virginia, and they were checking out the Mothman statue yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while, but that's a cool part of the country too, especially with John Keel's work and everything. It's got that weird feeling.
It does. It's a cool vibe to it,
like
and it's
energy.
beautiful country. It's actually really nice out there.
How far away do you live from there?
Maybe 2 hours, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I've been to the Mothman Festival twice. I would love to lecture there, but
That
it'd
would
be
be
fat. That'd be awesome for me. I would just because of the history of it. But yeah, I've been there a couple times, but it's only been through like the Mothman Festival. Other than that, I kind of stay in my own neck of the woods.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Okay.
kind of are too. It's a rare
That's
day
you.
that we go cross country or something
Yeah.
to
A
do
rare
things,
week.
but we're learning. We may do more of that because it was fun. We had a good time. It's a lot of driving if you're driving.
For
But
you guys, oh my God, yeah. Even a
yeah,
flight would be like 2 or 3 hours, probably.
Yeah.
be a while
Yeah.
for sure. And with TSA and everything else, it gets to be a long day no matter how you cut that cake.
Yeah, yeah,
Especially
yeah,
with
no doubt.
the grounding planes with the smoke going on now.
Yeah, we've had some of that.
Yeah.
Are you getting any of that in Ohio?
We did. It was really hazy. You could smell it, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing like you guys in the Northeast, man. You guys are getting killed.
We got a
Dude,
lot.
it's
Not as
crazy.
much as New York. I mean, New York
Oh,
really
it
got
was
hammered
this
with it.
morning,
It's
yeah.
ridiculous. But yeah, it did. You didn't really want your windows open for a couple of days.
No, and it's weird when you say you can smell it. It smells like burnt rubber and electrical.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's really gross smelling. Yeah.
Yeah, weird, right?
Especially being that close to Canada, you guys, especially you guys have probably already seen the photos from New York.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. But let's get into things. I was telling you, I just got this book this week, and it's kind of interesting book with written by Alan Steinfeld, and it's all essays from different people in the ufology world about what they think basically is going on and what aliens are and what the government's doing. And there are essays in here from people like Grant Cameron, Linda Moulton Howe, Laserface Cow.
We have a song that goes with her.
We do.
She's never come on our show.
I know.
Jeez.
Well, we got to get Willie Strieber. People like that. Pretty cool. It's all just a bunch of essays, and it was an affordable book. It was only like 12 change or something for a hardcover book, which is cool on Amazon. But it's an unpublished John Mack essay in here.
Really?
Look forward to reading. I love his stuff. John Mack was
It's awesome.
yeah. And I know you just finished some work or a book by Dr. Carla Turner.
Yeah, it's my second time reading it, and it was just as alarming as it was the first time, my friends. I was sitting there, and it was just. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched. I know you guys were getting prepared for the show tonight, but I told them on the Ghost Notes on Leak Project. I said that Dr. Carla Turner was working with an abductee who was having a picnic at her house with some friends and family. They all witnessed this UFO hovering up over a house across the street. And she tells Dr. Turner, I remember getting binoculars and looking at this thing with binoculars. She said, I vividly remember looking through my telescope and looking at the ship. She said, the problem is the next day I woke up and my telescope was still in the box it came in and never opened. And she said, and I don't even own binoculars.
Wow.
So my point on Ghost Notes was, we got problems, man. Kristen, my friend, there's something really wrong with this situation, this scenario that we're existing in. And, but that was one of the points that she highlighted was, even some of these accounts and memories that are screen memories, can we really rely on them? Because the thing is, and this is crazy, but there is what Jacques Vallée and other researchers, including myself, we've encountered a control system present where if you even remember what they did to you, the memory itself has to be questioned. And then if you remember the correct memory, they'll make sure you don't share it. And then if you share it, they'll threaten your life. And if you share it still, they'll take you out. This is a control system where we exist in it, and we're groping in the darkness, trying to figure out, okay, what's really going on here.
Yeah, it's actually what you just said is like our government to us. We're the sheep, it's a control system.
Mm-hmm.
Do a sound effect for that.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
very good.
called Thank You Corona Light
Thank you, Corona.
for for half a beer.
What's wrong with Alec Ash White? Oh my God.
Oh, don't do the alabastard. Sorry, I have to say
The
that.
snallygash.
Oh my Lord, it was awful. So that was and on the Ghost Notes I went through the 7 points to her research that she said were, we know very little. She even said this in one of her lectures on YouTube. We know very little that we can say is a fact, like things that we can hang our hat on and say, okay, these are what abductees are seeing more and more, right? The unalienable tenets of the research that once you've done enough research, worked with a certain amount of experiencers, there are certain thematic elements that come to the fore that they all or most of them share. And so that was her point. But it really is, and again, this gets back to the simulation hypothesis, where at any point, like the control over us is it's staggering.
Yeah, and it's there, brother. It's there.
So
there is something there for sure.
it is true,
Right.
but the way I look at this is now you have like any kind of circumstantial evidence nowadays. If you have a ton of it, will get you on the court floor, and it could even get you,
Right.
put in for murder or something. But when it comes down to, UFOs and the aliens and what the military knows, which y'all know that, and nope, they don't want anything to do with it. They back off. They don't. I mean, even the senators, nobody wants to play around with this. And I think
Right.
it's because it's coming from a place where maybe they do have the nuts and bolts, but a lot of people don't know that in the military. Maybe it's a higher up.
Mm-hmm.
Even the president sometimes doesn't get the clearance.
Right.
There's a lot of clearance issues. They won't tell him, like a black operation, a shadow government will not tell him that. Shadow ops.
Yeah, he or she's going to have maybe 8 years at the most.
It
So
doesn't matter. They still
someone else,
them.
right? And
Yeah.
the problem is, you debrief them on something, and
Yeah.
then 8 years later they're gone.
True.
And it's like, what's up, Greg? How you doing, buddy?
So,
But there's a significant problem here. One thing that was also alarming to me is how, like, Dr. Carla Turner was dealing with these different experiencers. She had 8 of them, and that's a very good question, Jack. I think that we're dealing with. There's only 2 possibilities. Either we're dealing with the phenomenon coming to us as our government. Well, I'm a government official. Or we are really dealing with people in our government, elements in our government, who are coming back and saying, hey, listen, don't tell people what you know, which is also present. But Dr. Carla Turner was working with experiencers who, just like in demonology, right? They're going into dreams, thinking this is just a dream. It's a bad dream. It's a nightmare, whatever. I'll wake up better tomorrow. And then when they wake up the next day, there are excretions from these beings on them, or whatever these beings are doing to them. There are marks, there are bite marks, there are scoop marks. And so there was something very much real occurring to them.
Yeah. And that's the spooky part, right? So, I mean, that is the data that grabs you, and it really, has to make your mind melt.
It's trauma to the
it's
individual.
horrifying.
Right.
I mean, I had a sleep paralysis demon story actually from this week, which was interesting. I woke up and I'm on a new sleep med, Qvivic it's called, and it actually has a warning because I have a terrible insomnia, and it has a warning on it about sleep paralysis. And I don't know, all this stuff is just like hanging in my subconscious and really made me reconsider some of it, because we've talked about hypnagogic, hypnopompic states a lot, on the show, and all of that, those in between waking, sleeping moments. And I woke up and it was about 2:30, and in my bedroom, I have obviously have a closet with like a normal kind of door, and there's a coat hanging over a shirt. I've just, couldn't fit in my closet. I could clean my room like a big boy, but I got a couple of things hanging on my door, right? And there's this black coat, and I wake up and I'm looking at it, and it starts turning into something else. It turns into absolutely like a demonic form, something with no legs. There's a torso, there's big bulky shoulders. It's kind of hunched over. It's
Shadow person.
fucking something coming off the head that looked weird, and there's a shirt behind it, and I'm looking at it, and the arm of it, which is like the sleeve of the coat, it looks like it's almost a rag hanging out at the sleeve, and it starts to form a skeletal hand, and I see it bone by bone, like just form, and it's right there, and I'm looking at, oh, dude, this is screwed up. And this goes on for a few seconds, and then it morphs back into the coat and the shirt, and I'm like, all right, what the hell did I just see? And I'm thinking, all right, this is just my subconscious coming through. This, I've got no semen on me or anything,
Right.
There's nothing bad happening. I don't have scratch marks or anything.
Yeah, that's what he said to me too. Yeah.
I did see it, and I clearly remember it because you tend to remember some stuff in those states. It can stick with you. And it seems like such a gateway, as we've talked about, pretty extensively. And I think the audience knows about that. Those in-between states seem to be like the portal, right?
Right. Yeah, I've had that happen to me. I wasn't on sleeping medication, but yeah, I was with my ex at the time, and I had gotten off work, right? It's a Friday night. I'm like, man, I worked 8 hours at a factory. I'm sweating. I got home. What was that? Can you hear me? You good?
Yeah. No, I said, woo.
Oh, I know, right?
Friday night.
Man. I get home, man. I'm like, man, I got me a nice sandwich, right? Hop in the shower. And so I go to bed, and I'm just so tired from the work week that I go into a deep sleep. And in the sleep, and I say this with all conviction, and I knew that it was a spiritual attack. It was a spiritual dream. It wasn't just, okay, I'm really tired. Oh my God, it's REM. No, there was an entity there. And I knew that because of what I went through as a young person in that haunted house. But in the dream, I am being mounted by this entity that was a featureless shadow figure. Like there was no facial features at all, but it had long hair that went down just like my ex's hair did, and it was straddling me in the dream. And I'm thinking,
sort of,
oh my God,
straddling you, or
yes, absolutely, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna kill you.
It was weird. No, it was sexual. And I'm sitting there, and I wasn't like worked up or anything. I'm just laying there in the dream. In the dream, I'm thinking, okay, what is this, right? And in the dream, I thought this was my ex. This is, it looks just like her. And of course, like literally, if she was in that position, you could turn the lights off. You wouldn't see her face. You know what I mean? So it was as if this makes sense. This is what I talk about on Ghost Stories on Leap Broad. They can play roles.
Yeah.
And the mimicking aspect of it's really, really deep and troubling. But anyway, so in the dream, I keep trying to wake myself up, and it's just not making sense. I'm thinking, oh my God, what is she doing? When I got into bed, she was asleep already. What is going on? When I woke up and my eyes adjusted to the darkness, that entity was actually physically on me. So there's two possibilities. Either it used my dream state as a portal to become physical, or it used this reality to enter my dreams. Either way, it was in both dimensions.
Use this reality. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, again, I don't know. So we have to understand that it's a whole other show. But, either it's an entity in and of itself, or it's a program. It's technology, or it's spirituality.
Right?
Right.
There's some kind of control going on, like you mentioned, right?
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that was my question was, okay, was it on me physically in order to reach me in my dream state? Because that's what in demonology we'd call those dream demons, right? Using this reality to penetrate us in our spirit into that world that we exist in when we're out of body. Or is it vice versa, right? Did it penetrate my dream to manifest into this world? This gets into, again, it's dream demons, incubi, succubi, and the UFO abduction phenomena, where women and men go into these dream states, literally hypnotized by these entities, and then the entity enters into their dreams.
It's a
very weird.
Humans are sexual. It's part of our thing. It's part of our core, our root chakra, whatever you want to call it. It's how we exist. If we didn't have it, that we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be this consciousness living in the body. So what an open wound to attack, is sex. It's easy. That's why I think you see the incubi, succubi stories and these experiences people have, because it's just an easy way in.
Still waiting for the piece of the UFO, the ship, they said that's like it's, I forgot what it was, from Linda Moulton Howe. Tom DeLonge has one. Somebody else has one. Still waiting for that evidence to be, analyzed and
Yeah,
everything.
the metal.
Somebody's still,
The metal of an
technology
alloy
that's
that
now-
we can't really create on Earth, or would cost so much money to create. You would not find it washed up on the beach, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
we
I
don't
think
have
that's what you're talking about.
Yes,
right?
we don't have
Yeah.
the technology for that, so they say.
But she has them, and she shared it with some people.
So that would be evidence.
It'd be data
It'd
for
be-
sure.
Well,
Pretty good data. Pretty damn good data.
if we can't recreate it here in a lab, that would be evidence.
Mm.
So that's basically
For us, now, if we're going to get into that subject, I personally know people, which I obviously I'm not going to name. I'd be stupid if I did, but they've signed NDAs with the government, and all their data goes to them. Somebody posted on Facebook today, talking about Skinwalker, and I'm like, well, I mean, of course, it's sensationalized. The researchers that they used to respect it, but they kind of, some of them actually been there.
I'm not sure how
And-
much they respected it, though.
Hmm.
It's public opinion. I mean, we're talking about werewolves. So we're talking about a lot of stuff. Skinwalkers
Yeah.
in the House. That book goes into a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily the way we associate Skinwalker Ranch today.
It isn't. And the researcher I talked to, well, let me say this: the individual that was inquiring about the data and why aren't people taking them seriously anymore? It's a very good question, but it was almost like, okay, well, here's the answer. I've been in conversations and Zoom calls and stuff with some of these researchers who've actually been on the site.
Right.
And number one, there is paranormal activity that is not being reported on. It's far darker. Many of it's far darker than what they're willing to put on television. And that the television show itself is just, this particular individual was called out there to look at a cow because the cow had been mutilated. And, cameras are out there and everything. He's examining the body, and his expertise, if I can get that out. It's his expertise, and he's looking at this. He says, okay, there's nothing paranormal about this. We see this all the time. Oh, not you. See ya. Here's your plane ticket out. Bye. And they flew with another researcher. Right. Press play. What do we got? Press record, brother. Oh, yeah, that's paranormal. So there's two things going on at once. Number one, I know that not just Bigelow, but other people that have owned that location, they have signed contracts with the Department of Defense and our federal government. Now, it's not just researchers; it's actual companies that have signed NDAs. Now, what is an NDA? Well, okay, here's an NDA. All of my research is funded by them, but all of my data returns to them when I'm done. So here's a monthly report. Here's the video. Here's the EVP, right? Here's our raw data. And also what they're doing is going to the public and saying, okay, we are collecting this, right? But I can't give it to you.
which is exactly what Grouch is doing right now.
Absolutely.
So
it's hearsay, and like you said, it's just hearsay, and we don't have anything on it, like anything technical or data. It's just data now, no evidence.
what do you think is the driving factor there? I mean, is it that they're hoping to discover like an energy source? And
you're talking about on Skinwalker specifically.
Very capitalist society. Skinwalker, a lot of our ufology. I mean, this gets tossed around. I've heard Grant talk about it. A lot of people talk about it. That there might be just kind of endless energy source available, but if somebody can own it, Corporation A, C, whatever it is,
They did the Tesla.
XYZ, exactly.
It's world domination. It's
and recreate it and own that shit, and then say, all right, we're going to charge people for it. Like, that just pumps up society, this kind of thing of making money, which it just seems so, cyclical and I don't know, very redundant.
It is. It's redundant, and this is what our federal government has been doing for decades now. And here's the big kicker too. I think a lot of what they're doing is preserving plausible deniability. And You know, it's interesting, but again, plausible deniability, and they don't really want us to know the truth. And I think that's also troubling. I mean, I know there's a lot of whistleblowers out there that's very difficult. I just don't trust a lot of it.
Doing either.
Mhm.
You know, and I commented on someone's Instagram post who was asking. I said, you know what? I don't trust it. I want to so bad. You know, um, but knowing their intentions to capitalize on these opportunities to almost try to control the phenomenon or create it or respond to it and get it to the point where you can harness it and then use that against our enemies. But the truth of the matter is that the phenomenon is so interesting.
It
Jason, my
is.
buddy Jason, what's up, Jason?
Hi,
You know,
Jason.
and
You
you
said
start to break
Wakanda.
things down and you see what the driving factors and motivations are for some of the research, some of the data being put out, and you try to weigh it out and you look at our society as a whole, and we're just, uh, hammered with information from two different things. So you never know what to
Right.
think. Our whole
Exactly.
political system is based on this. Not that I want to
Disinformation.
get into politics, but that's
Yeah.
exactly what they do.
Back and
You
forth.
know, one
Like you
person
said.
does this, and then the other side says, "Oh, we're the victim because you did this," and
Yeah.
it goes back and forth, and blah, 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 blah.
Been doing that
And the
since, like,
media just flashes, and whatever you're
forever.
watching, just applauds the victim, and it's ridiculous. You know,
Right.
so I guess one of the good arguments, well, I don't know if it's a good argument, but one of the arguments against this whistleblower, David Grush, was like, all right, we could not keep a secret that big. Our government could not keep a secret that big for decades. There's just no way. It's just too big a thing. We couldn't do it. What do you think of that?
I think that's true, but again, it's plausible deniability, and they're going to lean on, and this gets back to what we were talking about before, it's anecdotal evidence. Well, I saw this. You have any proof? No. One of my favorite movies is Conspiracy Theory, not because I believe in all conspiracies, but that's what they were doing to him. Do you have any evidence? No. Well, I have my memories, and I have, markings and bruises and stuff, but that's not really compelling.
It's just the guy
But-
that saw
It's fire
the
in the
data.
sky.
He didn't
Exactly.
experience anything.
Right.
Right.
Something to
Right.
consider. Why does he, the one that files the whistleblower, which thing is something that gets filed with Congress? I mean, there's a legal
Yeah, now
process
there's legal
behind it. Not just calling him a whistleblower because it's a name we use in the media.
Mhm.
It's like an official thing, right? So he goes to Congress, files these forms,
Right.
data, gives them evidence. Congress is going to return that, be reciprocal.
Yeah, I'll tell you what worries me more than anything, and take this with a grain of salt. People might not believe what I'm saying, but whatever. It's my personal opinion. The person that really knows what's going on, okay? The person who has understanding of it, evidence, and who's sitting across the table from military officials, or as Putin said, men in black suits, right?
Uh-huh.
People who are so dark that you'll never ever hear their names, that have literally existed through different presidential cabinets, or the smoking man from the X-Files,
Exactly.
right?
That's
The
right.
Shadow-
people, the researchers and I know some of them that have been in there, they're not going to break their NDA.
No.
That's the frustration that, we'll break your NDA. Right. It's not your family, right? It's his.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do it.
Indeed, we
It's
want to have
brilliant, right?
life, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. Why? Because what they know is valuable, what they know is true, what they know they have evidence of. The person, again, now the whistleblower, that I would be like, okay, what evidence? That, you know what I mean? Like, again, you're not going to find Fox Mulder, right?
Right.
I gotta go tell everybody. No, Fox
Even though
Mulder
they-
is hiding. Like, what in the heck is going on? Right. He's the guy that's like, okay, I got all this evidence, but I can't tell anybody because of what? Because the heavy-handed weight, or the heavyweight hammer of the federal government knocking on your door. You want to disappear for 20 years? And that's just for, espionage. What if this is the greatest secret we've ever had in the history of the world? They're just not going to do it. I mean, I've talked to a couple of them that bills on. I'm getting. I paid the bill. I got to sign this NDA. And they work for the federal government. Now this gets back into how do we preserve the data? How do we communicate that there is a there without compromising and leveraging, right, our entire known existence? Well, what they would do is they would be like Bud Hopkins, right? There are symbols on UFOs. Here are the symbols. But they're not really the symbols that were on UFOs, are they? No. But were there symbols on UFOs? Yes.
Right. So much
You
disinformation. You don't know
right.
who to believe, you know?
But what he was also doing, and I think what the government is also doing the same, they're also doing the same thing, is he would say that, he could accomplish, here are the symbols. And then he would weed out the frauds. Oh, I saw those symbols. Really? Because I just made them up.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then someone would come up and say, you know what? I saw symbols, but they were not like that. And then he'd be like, those are the symbols that match my data. So in a very real sense, the federal government is vetting real experiencers, real data. In at the same time, they're obfuscating much of the darker aspects of the phenomenon, which is
hearing a lot
very
about
much.
Yeah, the media does seem to center around, and we've talked about this before. These good experiences with the experiencers.
Right.
Ultimately being good, even if they had something bad, it kind of gravitated to something else. But there is some horrifying stories. I mean, you told me a story about a grandfather and was it a 9-year-old today?
Yeah, it's Ted Rice. Like, this should make everybody mad. This should not inspire someone to oh my God, I just want to contact these beings. It's so great. Oh my kumbaya, my Lord. No. Like, Dr. Carla Turner was working with a family. They had a 10-year-old girl who had to have a hysterectomy because of what these beings were doing to her. And on the Ghost Notes tonight, I said, you know what? It's cool if it's somebody else's kid until they take yours. And then you start realizing this phenomenon is way too close.
Right.
Anyways, I'm getting passionate.
Yeah. Until it hits home and you're actually dealing with it. There's so many things like that in life. You just go, "Ooh, that's really cool." But what did the kid see? Because I was like,
this is
mortified when you texted that.
Oh my God, Ted Rice. He was a psychic medium that Dr. Carla Turner had been working with for a long time. He was from, I think, Biloxi, Mississippi, or that area of the country. He was 9 years old. He is in his room at night, and his deceased grandfather appears to him in the room.
Deceased grandfather.
Right. Again, this gets back into role playing.
Immediately feels probably a form of trust. Like,
right.
Okay, especially at 9. 9, you're going to be vulnerable to that, and you're not going to think it's necessarily scary. You might, depends on the kid, but I think a lot of kids would be like, "Oh, I'm having a cool experience as grandpa," especially at 9. Right?
Yeah, and manipulating the innocence of the child, and also even deeper than that, manipulating the human condition. Right. And when they're manipulating one, they're trying to manipulate us all. That's the key point. And so, he sees this apparition of his grandfather, and again, the leaning on the role play, leaning on the fact that, okay, if you believe I am your grandfather, then give me access to you. And so, this being went over to him and assaulted him, and he ran out of it. Assaulted him. I can't say it on here. Assaulted him. And when he did, Ted Rice ran out of his bedroom, screaming and crying, and then the entity shape-shifted into what it really was. Now, there is this tacit, I'm still working on this hypothesis. See, if we're looking at the power structure here, if they could do anything they wanted, then there would be no necessity or need to manifest in a role. Right? I could just do it.
Yeah, you're being very careful in your choice of words, and you don't have to be. I mean, what you're saying is that the grandfather appears to Ted Rice and then sexually assaults him, this 9-year-old boy.
Tries to. And Ted Rice, again, his little mind's what? But this gets into this idea, if they could, they would. If they, if I could go in and steal something, if I could go and steal something because I can, right? And I could just bypass all instinctual awareness. And then all of a sudden, I don't know.
No, I didn't.
No. He talked you up. He's right. He did. I didn't see it, though. He's right. That's my buddy, Jason. Love you, buddy. And, yeah, so if I could, right, I could just bypass all instinctual awareness. I get it. I'd have it, right? I could just take it and leave. I would not have to put on the uniform, right, to do it. I would not have to appear as if I'm a part of his reality or their reality to do it. So there is something, oh my God, there is something to this idea of role playing, okay? In other words, like this case that I had in India as a woman, and she was talking to me about how this entity had manifested to her in the image of every man she's been with. Why would it have to do that? If it had that much power, right? Yeah. Why would it be looking for a form? No, I'm not saying it is consent, but it's a form of, okay, yeah. Hey, you're Tony. Remember Tony? Oh, yeah, we had fun after that club, Why would it do that unless there is permissive will that is tied to the idea that you do believe I am who I appear, right? Mm-hmm. If you believe that, then now I have permission to act into that role.
Right. And how do you get to that, that level of like knowing what to say or what to appear as? Again, it's always going to go back to the subconscious, which is those hypnopompic, hypnagogic states. Right. Right there, you're just swimming in it, really. Right. Other times, I don't know. I don't know how they are able to tap in, if you will.
Yeah. Yep. It's just disturbing, but again, this mimic aspect of it, how they can mirror us. And Josh was right. It is manipulation. It's manipulation of the human condition, and it's an issue. But getting back to this idea, okay, he mentioned the incubi succubi phenomenon, and he's right. Matter of fact, what ancient Baghdad text was talking about this phenomenon. It's not modern. It's anything that's modern is just in a modern interpretation of an ancient phenomenon that's been occurring for millennia. But one exorcistic rite that was written by a Baghdad exorcist was talking about, if the woman is visited by an entity that appears to her as a man that is dead, or a boyfriend, right, that she's no longer with. Guys, listen, I did a show not too long ago, and after the show was done in the green room, the host told me a story. We may have even talked about this on the last show on Leak, where he had broken up with a girlfriend, and they hadn't talked to each other in months. He had moved across town. They had different friends, so it wasn't a big deal, all this stuff. He said, and one night he's about to go to bed when he has a knock at the door. Opens the door, it's his girlfriend, right? It's his ex-girlfriend, remember? It's his ex-girlfriend. And she seduces him, they hook up, and he wakes up in the morning, she's gone. A week or so goes by, he's at work, and he starts to thinking about that whole night. Something just wasn't right. Something didn't feel right. Matter of fact, he asks himself a question. He says, matter of fact, how did she even know where I lived? So he gets home from work, cracks open a beer, calls her. Just want to figure this out. Like we haven't talked since the night you were over. What are you talking about? What do you mean we're not talking about? How did you even know where I lived? I don't even know what you're talking about. But look, we're done. I told you we're done, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. Delete my number. That wasn't me. Go away. I had a lady that reached out to me when I was on another show, and she heard I was going to be on, and so she wanted to tell me her story. She was getting ready for bed one night. Is this all right? I don't want to ramble. Is this good? All right. She was getting in bed, and she just something weird started happening to her. She was a little bit drowsy, and next thing you know, she says her husband walks towards the bed, and they were intimate, and she said afterwards, she's looking at her husband, and he returns, he's looking at her from the door, and he's looking at her, and she's staring at his face, and she notices that this is not really her husband, that there are certain facial features that did not belong to the man she had been married to for 25, 30 years. And so she starts to realize that this is not my husband. This is something else that wants to appear as my husband. And Jason, if you're listening, this is exactly, in my opinion, this is exactly what Paul was talking about when he said, you'll receive another Jesus. Right? There will be an entity that will manifest, that will want to be accepted as though it's the real thing. This even gets back into eschatology with experiencers. Well, I saw Jesus at an abduction. Was he really Jesus?
Right.
I didn't mention his name, but there's a famous experiencer now that's telling people that Jesus told him things, and Jesus said that Ra's God and all this. Okay, you need to look at what that Jesus is teaching you and compare it to what the real Jesus told.
All right, but nobody's really following that anyways.
I know, it's weird.
You know,
Thank God.
Going into, again, the subconscious or something with that person. If they have a connection to religion, maybe it'll be Jesus, maybe it'll be this, it'll be that. It'll be some sort of vulnerable moment. You know, we talked about roles and like the little kids in graveyards that are in every town and that kind of thing. It is always a story of a little boy, a little girl in a graveyard, woman in white, all these kind of vulnerable points in life. You know, broken-hearted bride, the woman in white.
Right.
You know, like who doesn't feel for that, right? So it's an easy one, right? We just do that, or we can be Jesus, or we can be whoever. It's a way to get to you, you know, a way to get you to pay attention, I guess. So, I mean, is it attention they seek, or is there something else? Do you think, especially these sexual encounters, that there's genetic manipulation going on, the breeding farms and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's obviously occurring, but some of the trauma that these people are experiencing, it's really sad. I mean, it breaks my heart. I mean, you're talking about people who like literally they're given screen memories where even when they remember the event, right? The event itself, the screen memory was love and light. But then when you get down to the post-traumatic stress disorder that they're seeking a therapist for, right? Then they do memory regression. And then finally, the memory of their mind agrees with the trauma that that their body is suffering from. Both of them come together, and then they realize for the first time, oh my God, something really bad happened. Now, I don't know, I don't want to ramble, but
ramble on.
Yeah, it's one of the
Sing my song.
songs I heard in the truck earlier, and then it's just stuck in my head, and I can hear Led Zeppelin in my head.
The mighty Led Zeppelin. Yes.
Jack brought that up, and I'm like, he said, "Ramble on, Rose, to you."
One
One
of the best bands ever, really. But yeah, I mean, there's so much happening here and so much disinformation. To circle back to this whistleblower thing, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? He talks about non-human
pilots,
pilots, right?
He says, I can't quote him but he said, paraphrase. Thank you. He said that if there's we have pilots going down, you know, aircraft going down, the pilots will go down with the craft. That's basically what he said about the extraterrestrial, the UFO,
the recovery projects.
Yeah, they have bodies. Is what he said.
Yeah, there's bodies, right?
Yeah, the problem though.
Like, what part of
wow, you know, I'm not saying enough about that. To me, I think, like, you know, the idea of some piece of alien torso, like, I want to know what it looks like. How many arms does it have? Does it have arms? You know, is it just an organism and it's flapping? I don't know. Is it artificial intelligence? What is it?
Yeah.
You know, what's
is it leaked by our own government?
Disinformation.
See this, and then what they're doing over here is completely different.
Right.
You know.
And
that's
like all the congressional hearings, you know, they show the worst evidence to the public. They show stuff that looks like a mylar balloon.
Oh my God, it is a mylar balloon.
Oh my God, so debunkable. Why are they showing that? And they go hush hush, and then we get something else to talk about later that we're not sharing with the public. And is this just another instance of that?
It's frustrating. And I've had people that I've talked to in the field that are equally as frustrated. I mean, one of my buddies he's former DARPA, and he's been telling us the same thing. And he was getting castigated by the field of ufology because they're trying to say, okay, it's the real thing. And he's like, look, dude, I worked on projects like this. It's not the real thing. And it begs the question, what do they really have access to? What are they hiding from us? Again, getting back to this whistleblower thing, not that I would recommend this, but, if this guy has nothing to lose, like, it's not like he's going out there and saying, okay, here's where the bodies are buried. He's telling us nothing more than a guy that I know that used to work at Right Pat told me. We got bodies.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I heard that. Great, so it's again, and this is just my opinion, my personal opinion. If I have a whistleblower that suddenly disappears after testifying, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay attention to what he said, right?
Right.
Said
Yeah.
too.
Oh, what he was going to say.
Right. If he comes out there and says, you know what, here's what we have, bam, 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 bam. It's not a canary in the coal mine. It's not. Again, it's literally like, okay, this is what I know, and this is what I don't know. I just don't know where I stand on it because I think we've been just.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing.
There's no one goal of just establishing communication with the public of what we know and don't know. There's always like this kind of artificial thing. ATIP themselves, right? They changed their name.
Yeah.
What that very same acronym stood for, like 3 or 4 times.
Wait, aren't they Arrow
So
now?
you couldn't file a FOIA request, right?
Exactly.
Freedom of Information request.
Yep.
Just to make it harder. Like, there's no other reason to do that other than to make it more difficult. And now we have a different one, and I forget the name of that.
It's Arrow.
Arrow.
And
what does it stand for? Because it's a long, drawn-out thing. It's really hard to remember.
I can't. But I was going to say, even he said, the Grouch guy said that even they don't know about this.
Right.
The
It
Arrow
seems like
was
such a
looking
front
into-
that could be behind it, or they just don't take it seriously. But yet they do accept the things, and it gets press. And I don't know. I mean, are they just trying to take people off of politics and COVID, or is there something really here?
Everything's on the table at this point, and the guy could be telling 100% truth. He could be like, you know what? Hey, I used to work on this, but it kind of scares me because I can tell you this much. I've worked for companies and that, I've had to sign NDAs and I know how they work, like I left a company about 5 years ago, worked for them about 6 years. I worked on it was automobiles, but still they made me sign an NDA and told me, look, it's a legally binding contract. If you want insurance for the next 5 years, sign this contract. And even I wouldn't come out and say, dude, this is how they run their quality and stuff. It's stupid. But it just makes me wonder, like, if this guy is like literally throwing caution in the wind, it makes me think that there's nothing that there was nothing. How do I say this? It's going to cost him nothing to do this, right? Does it make sense? And if it's not going to cost him to do this, are you a real, you know what I mean? Do you really know, or are you just, because the people that really know, their head's going to be off, man. They're going to get destroyed. See ya.
Fame? Does he just want to be in books?
I don't know.
This is what we need to ask ourselves. Now, if you look at it, what's his face? Bob.
Lazar?
No, not Bob Bigelow. The guy
Lazar?
from. Yes. Thank you.
Bob Lazar.
Yes.
Hal Lazar.
He was a big whistleblower, but not so big that because after they wiped out everything of his credentials, even his mother says that she can, but that's his mom. I get it,
Right.
family.
Yeah, we're
But,
still on the fence with his story. Like, is that real?
Was it real? And
I
they
don't know.
really wiped him. Did he really work there? I mean, we don't know
It's
unless you give us
Is
some
really good
evidence.
information or seemingly
Yeah.
good information. And then there's silly
Element
stuff.
150.
Jeremy Corbell's with him and George Norrie in there in the backyard, and suddenly the government just moves in on him.
Yeah.
And it seems so friggin' phony, right? Like, why would you? Now you just happen to capture that moment, really?
Yeah.
It's just a little implausible.
Each whistleblower.
It makes me think of the real people who are experiencing the data, the real experiencers, real people who know. we have experiencers that the Collins Elite Research, the Department of Defense, physicists that are going out there talking to these experiencers. Many of them would, they would witness a craft or they would witness an entity go through an abduction account. And then the next day, they haven't told a soul.
Yeah.
Hi, we just want to know, did you have a nightmare the other night about being abducted by aliens? How did they know? See, those are the people who have all the goods. And what's frustrating even for me, like I've talked to some of these people that are doing research for the government, and they've told me, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what I know. Is it bad? Oh, it's bad. I had one guy tell me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it sounds like a government setup.
Yes, it is, and I think there are many different reasons for that. Some are religious, some are because of technology and whatever. But one guy told me, he's like, he goes, I would work with the British government, and they told me, in certain terms, that these are demons. They are demons. We know that. It's not a hypothesis. It's not a theory. These beings are demons.
Wow.
And
the religious aspect of it.
The religious aspect that is largely ignored, and it can't be religious, right?
It's always been with us, right? So it's not necessarily religious. It's more what people have experienced since people have been people.
Right.
There do seem to be entities out there, non-human entities, that certainly are, appear in our terrestrial Earth, and we can call them angels, demons, whatever we want to call them, deities. They exist. There's definitely something going on.
Right.
Are they? Are they the same thing that are making the orbs fly over Iraq?
Oh, the metal ball. That thing was cool.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Again, I go back to the idea that I don't know. I don't know what we have. I don't know what technology we have. Exactly. But I can tell you that it's not just nuts and bolts. It's not just esoteric. It's both. It's not either or. It's this and.
Mm-hmm.
And in this esoteric connection to our technology cannot be underestimated. I mean, when you look at the Collins Elite Research, they were investigating this with Jack Parsons using bastardized Kabbalistic rituals to conjure entities in which hoping that they would pity him. What? They would pity him enough to give him access to their technology. So, whatever these beings are, you can conjure them, and they operate in technology. So that's a very weird situation.
Well, why wouldn't they? I mean, we see paranormal phenomena. Often we use things like spirit boxes and things like that. Some kind of usually primitive type technology, considering our world as it is, right? If it were 1850, you broke out a radio and you're able to, scan the channels the way we do, that would appear extremely high tech and ridiculous, right?
And demonic, probably.
Right.
Words back that shouldn't be there,
right?
But it happens. Tesla heard the words.
Yes.
Tesla heard a lot of stuff when we didn't have radio stations. He thought they were aliens. He thought they were. He thought a lot of stuff. Brilliant man. You got to look at that in and of itself, and you go, "Oh, okay, maybe this stuff has been here." And then you go back into cultures like Sumeria and things of that nature, and Babylonia, and they had all these rituals, and they could speak with the dead. In fact, they lived above their dead. Their dead were literally in the ground. It wasn't a big deal to dig one up and talk to them if there was some issue in the house. They would take the head off and put it on a kitchen table, and they'd do a necromantic rite and talk to that heads. The talking heads. That's right. And that would later get used in medieval times with John Dee and things of that nature. The skulls and all that have always been with it. We talk about that because we use the skull for our paranormal investigations with magnets in it, crystals and things of that nature. And it works. And it seems to bring out the darkest parts of humanity when we use it.
I don't touch that stuff. I'm too scared, bro.
I think because it's magnetized. Gravity with it. The force of it.
Magnetics is topic in itself.
It is. What strikes me so odd, though, is using that hypothesis. If they were to see an iPhone, but they were given the iPhone by conjuring Steve Jobs, then we have a problem. right? Because when you look at our rocket programs, when we look at John D. Edward Kelly, when we look at Crowley, Jack Parsons, it's really strange. I was talking to Dr. Barry Fitzgerald about this. Watch this, okay? When you look at the lineage the lineage of their literacy and the lineage of their incantations, you go from Jack Parsons to Crowley, Crowley to Eliphas Levi, Eliphas Levi to Abramelin the Mage. In Abramelin the Mage, in his writings, he said, these incantations cannot, they're not even, they're prayers. To Abramelin the Mage, they're prayers. He said that they cannot even be accurately fulfilled. They cannot reach its correct destination, right? Unless it's deeply rooted in the fertile soil of the belief in the one God and the fear of that one God and the keeping of these certain principles. Only by that way, when you verbalize the articulation of these incantations, only by that way can you reach the desired person. And then, through that verbalization of the incantation, invisible universal laws will start to work on your behalf and manifest what you need. Now, the problem here is that neither Crowley or Parsons gave a rat's behind about this guy.
Right.
So this gets back. One time I did a lecture on Leap Project. I said the shortest horror story ever written was this. The last man on earth was alone at his house, and there came a knock on the door.
That is a horror story.
Here's why. Because when Parsons and Crowley went out there, right, performing sex magic and chaos magic and couldn't care. They didn't care about Yahweh or God or the one that, in performing these incantations, right, where the connection was severed, something answered. Oh my God. Should have never worked. But something in the ether heard that knock and said, okay. Now, this gets back to the idea. I shouldn't have to conjure technology. If I have to conjure technology, then spirituality is involved. And if spirituality is involved, there have to be rules to that spirituality, right? And if there are rules to that spirituality, we would consider that to be a religion. And if there's religion, right, you see what I'm doing? If there's a religion, there's good and bad. If there's good and bad, there are two sides. Who are the two sides?
Right.
Dark and light, good and bad.
Our friend Cornell says, where do you think the F-22 Raptor came from? LOL. And what he's alluding to is that we've gotten technology from alien intelligence,
which
space intelligence
has said
used to be
right up there.
Called,
yep.
And used it. Like they've given us stuff. Here's some stuff, guys. Go build it.
Yeah.
It'll help your civilization.
Let me read this to you guys because I think this will resonate with you. My friend put this on her Instagram, and it's a reference to a researcher named Nigel Kerner, and it goes back to what we're talking about. You ready for this? It's going to blow your mind. He said, if I were an extraterrestrial wanting to take over Earth and dominate its people, I would give them all of my technology willingly. They wouldn't have to fight me for it. I would see that they find that my technology eases their lives and gives them new toys to play with, things that satisfy their need for convenience, for knowing and exploring new things and new interests. And then they will, in time, want more and more of these things. So they're baiting us, is what he's saying, with technology. Their reliance on me and what I've got. It's the pill that looks and acts like a sweet. But I will try at all costs to see that they do not know that the pill hides a lethal poison that will turn them into beings like me. And this is what the whole scenario presents. I want access to your technology, even to the point that down the street from me in the Wright Pat Air Force Base are people we're performing the Parsons technique, and we're actually getting pieces of metal from whatever these beings are, but at what cost?
Well, here's a twist. What if they're not really extraterrestrial and they're actually here the whole time? Which is kind of how they started off, right? We viewed these things as messengers, right? Angel. The word angel means messenger. Demons was kind of a bad one and talked to the wrong person. They were supposed to be communications from people like us to deity, right? A polytheistic society. It could be plenty of different deities, right? Interesting, because now we just say, oh, it's one deity, blah, blah, blah. Most of society in America does, not necessarily the world.
Yeah.
What are these things? I mean, maybe they've been here the whole time. There seems to be evidence. Maybe Ancient Aliens isn't wrong, you know, and as much as it's joked about as pseudoscience, it's this, it's that. It's easily, and they really do go so far in that show that you got to question things, right?
Well, especially when I start mentioning Sitchins, and I'm like, what?
Voice and you know, stuff like sometimes we go, oh yeah, David, sure, that's exactly what it means.
Well, I mean, come on now. I mean, Zechariah Sitchin says, I'm like, yeah, I bet he says.
He does.
I bet he really says. But does he know the language? You know what I mean? That was the whole problem. He worked his hypothesis off of stuff he just literally made up. Yeah, and that's when you know.
I think before they went on.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my God.
Funny, but there is still some substantial stuff there that we've been dealing with this stuff forever, since hunter-gatherer days, before we even had civilizations. They're finding things that are interesting, especially in the areas of necromancy and again the skulls. Hunter-gatherers, skulls, just, you know, that just went into the civilizations that formed.
Are you talking about Neanderthals?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, it's questionable. They did use cemetery plots and would bury their dead, like elephants, you know, in a certain area, and they found that the skulls didn't always match up with skeletons they were buried with, and they were shifted around. That sort of thing.
That goes back to your tarot theme in ancient rite of necromancy that was outlawed in the Bible. It's very interesting. I mentioned this tonight on the Link Project, where they would, again, it's the implant, right? They would carve the name of an unclean spirit into a piece of metal, place it in the body. The consciousness of that entity would merge with the body and communicate. It's very interesting stuff. But, you know, I don't know. I just think it's troubling that, again, we're dealing with a control mechanism where, you know, I'll let you in. I mean, look at John D. and Edward Kelly, right? I'm going to conjure a handmaid, which is beautiful and everything, until she says to go swap wives. And then when they swapped wives and they came back, it's not a handmaid at all.
No.
Something completely different that manipulated the human condition and our ignorance. I want to know more. Give me more. But at what cost? And so this is why I think, honestly, that we have ancient writings that gave us insight into how to test the spirits. Right? How do we test them? Because just because it says it's dear and Edna does not mean it's dear and Edna. And I told them on Leap Project now, I said, just because it tells you something that's right doesn't even mean it's who it says it is.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I mean, the whole idea
very
is
scary and creepy, and
sexuality is like, we don't even know if they do it. You know what I mean? If they need to. It's a biological existence for us, because we're biology. We're a mass of cells, and to repopulate the planet, we have to screw and that kind of thing. We don't know that they need to do that. If they do that, if they want to,
but they may feed off of our pleasure
and our chaos,
our pain, everything.
Right. The fear-based activity is very much present as well. You know, I mean, the entity I encountered as a young person was, I mean, at one point when I started realizing the head game that I was suffering from, this is a projected terror. This isn't even organic. This is coming from the entity. And then again, there's this tacit agreement. Do you believe in it? Yes. This gets back into suicidal ideation, and this gets back into attachments, where the entity will start thinking for you. And then sooner or later, it'll give you a thought that you think is yours, and then you'll act on it. And then when it's done, this is what Dr. Carter Turner said, then it removes its consciousness from you. And you're left, many people, in a pool of blood. What the heck did I just do?
Yeah.
Well, you did what it wanted to do through you, and you're going to pay the price for it.
Totally a viable argument, because let's face it, our personalities are basically products of our environment. Probably 90%, is just things that we've grown up with, and the afflictions, the pleasures, the pains of our existence, the decisions we've made, and the outcomes of that, which is, our I don't know, gauge of happiness, right? It's just simply a sum of the parts of the decisions we made, are totally influenced by our environment. They're not really your true personality.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you look in those terms, well, if you create a bad experience for somebody, it can certainly have an influence on the outcome of that person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a valid one. It may sound far out, but that is the kind of thing that's how we all are. We are just really just products of our environment to a large degree in our decisions.
Do you have a spirit box going? Do you hear that? It's been driving me nuts throughout the podcast. Do you hear that?
I hear something.
Yeah.
A little noise.
It might be my fan.
Oh, that's probably what it is. Yeah.
That's your greatest fan.
All right.
That's your greatest
My
fan.
fan. Yeah, it's my biggest fan, So.
Jack Kilowatt. Yeah, and George wants to know.
George wants to know, how would I test the spirits in my next session? George does spirit box sessions.
I don't contact them. I don't. I'll tell you why. I mean, again, this is me personally, and you guys know my position. I don't. I mean, I've been in situations where, and let me say this. This is another thing, man. This. I've been in situations where my own gifting tells me it's a certain entity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. That's profound, really. My own gifting, where, oh my God, I think it's, it's this name. And then I'll wait. Really? And then I'll get more insight, which is the correct, right? And you guys know me. I believe in God and everything. It's the correct word of God. And then I got it. Oh, wait a minute. That entity, right? Again, it masked itself.
Experience, your life experience, that's what it points you to.
Right.
It's not necessarily the same for us. As you know, we're kind of into some esoteric stuff.
Right.
Right. Like sometimes exactly what you're saying applies the other way. And it's like, okay, now I get a better feeling of this. And it might be different than the initial one. And there might have been some sort of attraction to do something.
Right. To manifest, to become incarnate. Ted Rise.
That over time.
Absolutely. And it's so frustrating for me because I was on Darkness Radio the other day, and we got into this subject really deep. And here's the problem: the reason why a lot of researchers do not hold to the fact that much of the phenomenon is dark is because they are leaning heavily into channeled material.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
And with channel material, this is something that Dr. Clark Turner also echoed. The channel material, they could tell me what kind of underwear I'm wearing. Doesn't mean I trust them the next time they tell me to do something. Right. In the Philip experiment, when they created a ghost, the very first thing the entity did was start manifesting authority. And it told a girl there, hey, listen, I know your car broke down today. You're going to get a new car. But that doesn't mean it is who it claims to be.
I agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right about that. I don't think I think ghosts lie. I'll put that out there. They can absolutely say whatever they're going to say. It doesn't necessarily seem to be true. And I think the human condition seems to point toward, we are talking to an authority. Well, you're in the afterlife.
Yes.
You must know what the answers are. You can see it. We can't. So therefore you must know everything. Well, isn't that an open door to anything they want to, pass through, any kind of propaganda?
Yeah. Okay. So this gets into something very unique. And see, much of what we're dealing with is again, it's not modern phenomenon. It's ancient phenomenon being interpreted in a modern way, right? We got to put our new modern thing on. It's new. It's not new. No. In the 16th century, the debut phenomenon, they had people that were meeting at nights in basements, meeting in graveyards, meeting on hills, just trying to cleave. There's necromancy. They were trying to cleave to the deceased. to the consciousness, to the souls of the dead. And they believed, you're going to see it, I'm going to put this together for everybody. They believe that their intentions with the phenomenon determine the phenomenon's intentions with them. What a fatal mistake.
Thanks.
That's, again, that was how they tested the spirit. Well, I have good intentions with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was happening is that women were going to bed after conjuring, cleaving, and then in the middle of the night, an entity appears to them in their dream. Hey, you knocked on my door tonight, right? You gave me permission. Let's talk. And then in the dream, they start being sexually assaulted by the entity they had good intentions for. Now, here's what is so, and forgive me, you guys know me, I'm getting worked up. Here's what bugs the hell out of me. We wouldn't even use that to talk to strangers with candor, but we're using that way to conjure entities in the great beyond. What? And so what started happening was these women are being sexually assaulted by these beings. And now what they were wanting to cleave to is not cleaving to them. And the next day they're waking up and they got ligature marks on their hands and wrists. And they're pregnant. Hello, CE5 and missing fetus syndrome. They're pregnant with the entity, hold on, with the entity that assaulted them in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's true.
and I think these things probably happen. Yeah, I have to mention this.
And the government
Right.
knows.
I have to mention, speaking of the government, right? The government at the time, the big government was the Vatican, right? And so you had the Vatican, you had Christianity rolling through Europe, moving over to America eventually, and burning witches, right?
Right,
and
right.
what the hell was that? Okay, I'm gonna burn a lot of innocent people, right?
Of course.
Yeah, you'd have John Dee in that same time frame. I think you're talking 1500s, working for the Queen to spy on.
Oh my gosh.
And that's okay. But at the same time, we're not going to let the common folk do their cunning works.
Yeah, and that's a book.
There is disinformation. You're seeing
Oh
the
my God, yeah.
government disinformation campaign in effect, and they killed tens of thousands of people, many of which probably completely innocent, with just outspoken women in towns, little villages, maybe had some interest in, something not out of the ordinary that just didn't fit with the pattern that they wanted.
System.
You're not fitting in with the system, so we're gonna lose you. We're gonna, cut the fleece, herd the cattle in, or whatever.
Well,
that
speaking
phrase
of that,
is, right?
kudos to Connecticut for they
Connecticut,
just real quick. Yep.
Connecticut pardoned people charged with witchcraft in the 1600s very recently, just as of a couple of weeks ago, including 11 who were executed.
Right. Didn't you tell me that one lady had a son, you know what I mean, that was, and they killed her for it because they're really dumb?
Yes.
No, she had a deformed child that died at childbirth. They buried the child, and that was the Quakers, which were treated like witches here by the colonies in Massachusetts, because the Quakers, who were very religious and held the same moral viewpoints as the Christians, didn't feel that there was a need for a priest and talk directly to God. Sometimes they're called shakers, right? Because they would be talking to God emotional. And they would be like physically standing up and shaking. They were treated like witches, and as viewed by Christianity. When I say treated like witches, I'm not putting down witches. I don't do that. They were treated very poorly. They would cut their ears off. They would cut off appendages, arrest them on the boats they arrived in here from places like the UK in particular, before they even got a chance, and they hung them. And
zero. Like a lot of these people died without evidence. It was just superstition, right?
They buried her dead, deformed baby that we now know was a disease that he had, and the governor of the Mass Bay colonies, came out and put out a public letter, just describing him as a demon, basically, that had horns, scales, and all this stuff, thornback. Just horrible, horrifying things. Terrible. They dug up the baby, and that's when he put that out. They dug it up something like 6 months after the baby was in the ground. And they used that evidence, that data of the deformed baby dead in the ground 6 months to kick that woman out of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
She went to Rhode Island.
It's
ludicrous.
Yeah,
I have a
history is just, so fascinating and so horrid the more you dig.
no doubt. There's a book that I would recommend for you guys. This is a great book, and I've read maybe about 20 pages of it, but it's really good so far. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek mocking basically the religious society or people that have been indoctrinated. It's very interesting. Not I see that, especially Catholicism. This is basically what it's mocking, and how people, when religion began to institutionalize psychedelics, right? Rules for thee. This is what you're talking about, John Dean, but not for me. You know what I mean? And so it's called The Witch's Ointment, The Secret History of Psychedelic Magic. But what he does, it's a very weird title, but what he does, he goes through all of these misconceptions. And then what he starts to do is start to say, okay, yes, that what people were calling, or what their religion was calling witches, were actually mystics who were trying to get in contact with God. And what the church was doing was saying, listen, we're doing the same thing. We don't want you to do it because we believe you have to be a priest, right? Or you have to be some kind of pope or something, or a preacher. You're not allowed to do that. And so what they started doing was spreading lies about them. It's called the witches. Started spreading lies about them, right? And killing them off to the point where now we are given an inaccurate, what's called an inaccurate historicity. That's what you're talking about, right? Of what was actually occurring. Because, there are actually, believe it or not, there are people out there that practice witchcraft, and not in the sense of, hey, listen, it's very dark, I don't really care. And we've talked about people like that, Chris. Well, we won't go into that, right? But some really, really, really dark things. But what religion has done is they have institutionalized a lot of these practices and said they're pagan, right? When many of them were deeply rooted in the fertile soil of the first century and were authorized, believe it or not, by Torah. But because, I'm rambling now, but because of biblical illiteracy, right? Well, that's a witch, is it? Or are they doing, you know what I mean? Are they doing things? Anyways, I'll shut up. But
it's good. It's good. If you believe in God, do you think you need to believe in the devil? Let me put that up.
I don't know. What is the devil? I mean, it took the Catholic Church 16 centuries to realize, or to even ask the question if the devil was a real entity. And even people, get into religious philosophy, people believe that God uses the devil. Literally.
You think they're one and the same, aspects?
I don't think that. Well, if he's omnipotent, then the devil is a puppet. But now this gets back into experiential evidence. If we look at the UFO abduction phenomenon, what it's starting to do is stretch these religious scholars into new dimensions of thought. Where I heard one researcher, he's an evangelical researcher, said, hey, listen, according to what we know a demon to be, which is mainly Catholic, by the way, their definition, whatever these guys are, completely different. So anyways, man, I got about maybe 5 more minutes. I'm going to get some dinner.
That's all right. Yeah, because I'm about to dig into something that's going to take a long time.
Okay.
So we're not going to go there. Yeah. We'll let it go. But I do wonder, the ancient Greeks often used epithets. Right. I think that's the word, behind their god names in their polytheistic society. And they were aspects. Okay, so you could have one deity here, and they might have an aspect where they went into the underworld. And the underworld wasn't always hell, by the way. No. People often mistake that. But there was a sort of hell for them, and it was a sort of better heaven, I guess, an upgrade. We're moving on up. That kind of thing, available to the ancient Greeks. But they would have these epithets to different qualities of other deities attached to them. And you have to wonder, is it possible that, when Christianity kind of came in and smashed all that stuff, that they just took, all right, let's make it simple. We're going to simplify things because it got crazy. Hecate has over 200 epithets. That's a lot, man. That is basically all encompassing at that point, right? We're taking on all these things. Zeus, ridiculous amount. I don't know. Good and evil could all be, kind of the same thing, or just different aspects of the same beings that we're following. I don't know. I'm not trying to say, that Christians are wrong and blah blah blah.
Right.
It's not my personal belief, but I totally respect people that do, and that is the majority of this country for sure.
Right.
So, with that said, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a
Love
blast.
you guys.
Love
you,
you
man.
too.
And I can't wait to hang out with this guy.
You're already getting pumped.
I want to go to
I'm already
Opa.
pumped. I'm gonna go to
Opa, man.
Mediterranean restaurant.
I love Mediterranean food.
Oh, the food's so good.
Usually you're over here getting crunk, man.
And we
All right.
hit Harry's.
I'm like, oh, no doubt, man. All right, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Love y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, I'm tired, man. I'm gonna go to bed or
Boys,
watch
we are
something.
too.
Thanks again, Nate. We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Love you guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. That's all the time we have. Next week we have oh shit.
Yeah, no, I forgot.
I
And I was the one.
know. And he's the guy that lived in the Seattle Demon House, and I just drawing blanks at the moment. I hope he's not watching. Sorry, man. Wicked good story. If you guys know the Seattle Demon story, it's really good. It's not the ghost Zach Baggins story. It's a different one.
Tinsdale.
It's not the Hinsdale, and is really good and well investigated. And we're going to provide a ton of info on this. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. He's coming on to tell us his story. He's the guy that actually lived in the house, and it's
Yes.
So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. So I'm
Yes.
sorry we missed a few shows.
Yes.
We're going to do our best this summer. We may do some pre-recorded shows. Please let us know what you think about that. Doing something with more production, at least one night a week, and having a live show the second. All right.
Thanks.
Be cool. See you Saturday.
Bye.